This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, a PR podcast plug goes out this week to our friend Peter Shankman, a PR guy extraordinaire, like human extraordinaire. Peter and I have been friends for a long time. But the plug we're giving Peter this week is for his book that he's written called The Boy with the Faster Brain. Peter's published a couple of times, but his latest book is a kid's book, and it's an autobiographical tale about growing up in the 70s and 80s in the New York City public school system with undiagnosed attention deficit and hyperactive disorder, ADHD. Peter's been very public about that. He talks about ADHD the way it should be talked about. It's a gift, not a curse. Your brain works faster than everybody else's, and his philosophy, and I'm paraphrasing him, is that you need to learn how to leverage that faster brain. So this is a terrific book that he's written, especially for kids, but of course for their parents too. It's available on Amazon, wherever you buy your books. Go out and check that out. And a PR podcast plug going out this week to our friend Peter Shankman. Now on with our show today, we have a terrific guest. Cristina Suarez Krumsick is a progressive marketer with 15 years of experience bringing ideas to life through strategic storytelling. She's worked with companies of all sizes, from startup to enterprise, leading teams and campaigns with a comprehensive and analytical approach that challenges the status quo. With in-house and agency experience at Simon Schuster, Workman Publishing, and Baltz Company, she has a solid understanding of client-agency relationships and how the good ones can really make waves. In 2019, she founded Isetta, an integrated marketing agency that tells stories through positioning, design, and public relations to enable cross-functional efficiencies and catapult client exposure. She's got a ton of experience she's going to share with us today. Cristina, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Thanks so much, Jody. I'm excited to be here.
Tell us about your firm and tell us maybe what led you to start your own firm, sort of like your philosophy.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll tell you kind of like not the short story, not the long story, the the medium path. But yeah, so I started my career even before Simon and Schuster at working in editorial. So I was writing articles for a men's magazine, and it was kind of like gorgeously designed. And it's there that I kind of realized that, words and design have to work together in lockstep to really tell a story. And I've really carried that with me my entire career. So obviously working in cookbooks and publishing, I saw that, the cover of the cookbook was just as important as the recipes within it. So really this idea of like a holistic picture being the real thing that drives earned media and makes waves. So I eventually, went agency side and was kind of bringing that like holistic approach to my previous agency, where it was definitely welcomed. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I really want this to be kind of like the foundation of a place, where every client that comes through the door, every employee that comes through the door kind of like shares that philosophy, that it's really about the foundations and the bigger picture all working together. And kind of at that point, the cherry on top is earned media. And it's been great for us because, when we get into journalists' inbox, they know we're coming to them with a ton of quality that's kind of thought through from kind of every aspect.
You have really nailed the description of what we do in terms of making sure you're delivering quality. But I'm going to rewind the tape a little bit there to talk about what you talked about with the client relationship. It's so important. And I want to ask you how you do it. It's so important to get on the same page with the client, but also make sure that the client's on the same page with you and the service that you're providing to them, right? They come to you for a reason, but at the same time, you need to educate them about how you do what you do and what it's supposed to create for them. How do you have that conversation with the?
Yeah, I mean, we do it in a few different ways. So for us, it honestly starts like from the new business call, like the minute that we start talking about potentially working together, we're already talking about our values, right? So we're talking about transparency, we're talking about a holistic approach. We're already kind of setting expectations for what PR is for, and the service or the function that it serves. So, obviously PR can be for sales, especially like in the direct to consumer world. It can be for investor leverage, it can be for retail leverage, it can be for all of these things. So we kind of, depending on the client, what category and what stage of the business they're in, we right away just start talking to them about what the service can actually do for them. And then once they're kind of onboarded, we actually have a bunch of process in place to keep that train going. So we have this new deck called PR Defined, and it basically talks about, what PR is in 2023 versus what it was, 20 years ago. Because sometimes we're dealing with stakeholders who don't understand affiliate links, they don't understand how photography can really impact placement. And so we really kind of zoom out and take a step back and really have that like one big educational moment from the jump. And then we reinforce that throughout the relationship. And we're just like on each other's side and just super like normal and candid, not negative by any means, but we're just always kind of reinforcing the service in the most honest way.
So much to unpack there, and you're absolutely right. I'm agreeing with everything you just said. PR has evolved so much over the last couple of decades, and I think that's one of the things that I and probably a lot of us who are listening really like about it is that it is always evolving. It is always changing. There's always something new to learn, because I think that's the kind of people that we are. We're naturally inquisitive, question asking kind of people.
Yeah.
But constantly let's go back to the client relationship with you. Constantly course correcting, maybe the wrong phrase, but re-educating, like having that conversation, that back and forth of staying on the same page, because it's very easy to drift, right?
Yeah.
You said you have a little bit of a process there to continually sort of reinforce that bridge or that partnership.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound kind of crazy. I'll send it to you after this, but we have in that deck a little dictionary called PR, like a PR dictionary, right? And it's like an editorial version of like words that we say all the time. So we actually outline like, what is an opportunity? What is a draft? What is what is interest? What is a pass? And so we say for pass, for example, we say we love passes. That means that we have a dialogue with the journalist. It means that they like trust us to do something with that feedback, so we do. And we've actually been kind of like pulling a bit of those terms into our Instagram page, and they've been pretty well received. So, we definitely like have hacks and how to kind of reinforce it at any given time. But more than anything, it's just about like being a nice, empathetic person and being honest, right? So when you do have those moments of like friction or frustration that something isn't going through as quickly as you'd like it to, you can kind of say, okay, well, like, let's take a step back and like think about one of our favorite terms, the pitch cycle, right? A pitch cycle can happen in 24 hours. It can happen completely organically. It can happen in 2 years, right? And like, this is a frustrating part of the service, but it's also like incredibly magical and amazing, right? Because when it does come through, it's like the best part of everyone's day, and it can make a lot of impact in so many ways. So yeah, I mean, I think we have kind of our own assumptions, and we're always testing them, and we're always pushing ourselves. And we do the same with the client. We definitely say, you are the best one at making this amazing sparkling water or this amazing ice cream or this amazing mattress. We are the experts when it comes to the service, and let's trust each other.
Oh, so great there. And I love that concept of the dictionary or the glossary. Sort of educating people. I mean, my mind went to, the difference between background and off the record and all that kind of stuff, which nobody understands.
I love that.
But even something as simple as the different, what's a pitch, what's a draft, what's an accept or a pass, what's a conversation versus an interview, right? I mean, you can have sometimes you can have a conversation with a reporter, doesn't result in anything, but it's building that relationship.
Exactly. Good.
and it goes to something that you were talking about there too. And I just had a conversation over coffee about this. The human aspect of what we do is so important, because you can get lost in and I want to hear your response to this. You can get lost in the drafting of the pitches and the releases and the clipping the clips and all that stuff. At the end of the day, we're making human connections.
Yeah. It's so important. We talk about it all the time. We have, over the pandemic, obviously, like what was really, I think, wonderful about working through it is that we all found ways to make connections over email, right? In a way that like maybe previously, I think it was possible, but I think people were more accepting to it, right? All of a sudden you had a very warm intro. You were kind of exchanging like intimate details about your life with these journalists, and like we were able to kind of make those connections stronger. But I do think that there's just like nothing that can replace that real human connection that kind of goes beyond email, right? Or maybe beyond email just means like you DM with the person, but in any case it's like how can we actually be memorable for these people, and how can we be helpful? We actually put on this series called Working Together. We just started it in January, and we're doing another one on Tuesday, actually, but where we have a panel and it's founders and media side by side. The audience, like 40 to 50 people, is also founders and media marketers. And we're just having conversations about brands and earned media and PR and the state of publishing, and some great conversations, some hard conversations, and the kind of insights and the relationships that come from that one evening of just a couple hours, I mean, are like, it just pays off in spades. So yeah, I mean, this is a human service, and you can of course use data and analytics and software and everything to make it better and to optimize it, but at the end of the day, you can never take out the human connection in this. So yeah, I totally agree.
And it sounds like that has to come across in the clients that you represent at Isetta. The categories that you work in: food and beverage, home and design, wellness brands. Those are very human centered industries and human centered areas. Can you tell me a little bit about how you go about promoting those brands and promoting maybe whether it's the products or the people inside of those brands?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of our taglines is, kind of cross-functional, impactful marketing services for leading consumer brands and the good people behind them. And like those two things are not mutually exclusive. It's very much about, yes, a good brand, but an even greater person. And I think what's really awesome about that is, so many of our younger brands and even medium stage, like or mid stage, they have awesome founders who really have passion points intricately related to their product, right? So we have founders that have started companies that they personally need for a real personal reason, right? So that allows us to kind of like open up those doors of vulnerability and like tell those founder stories in a way that really helps people. So that's definitely a big part of the way that we approach PR. The other part is just being really smart about commerce, right? Like, how are we making sure that the right journalists are seeing these different product drops at the right time? We think a lot about gift guide. We think a lot about Mother's Day. We think a lot about seasonal trends, and we're really strategic and transparent with our clients and say, an ice cream launch in January is great, but maybe it should have some kind of seasonal spin, right? Like, can we talk about like how the ingredients are a little bit better for you than the next ice cream, that while people are thinking about getting healthier. So we just always want to, optimize for the season and make journalists' life easier and give them things that they're looking for. So we work pretty hard at doing that.
And maybe a good segue there too into how PR, especially when you talk about brands like food and bev and home and design, sort of product or consumer, right? Or consumer based things like this. These are clients that are selling a product that you want to inspire people to buy. How are you using owned, earned, shared, in coordination to achieve that goal?
Yeah. In so many ways. So we have these kind of like I'm a pretty type A leader. So we have these robust timelines, and basically the minute someone says product launch, like even if it's just an idea, we generate one, right? So you come to me and you're like, oh, I just have this idea for a new product coming out in September, and right now it's January, and it's X, Y, and Z flavor or thing or color or texture or whatever. And we kind of like pause and generate this timeline. And the timeline, of course, has really practical things towards the end, like, the product page, the, affiliate commission rate, like the real tactics. But in the early days, like 6 months out, we're like, let's have a big picture discussion about how you're approaching it. So like, who are the executional partners? How is it going to show up on your website? Do you have a social campaign in mind? It's like, how can we really think through the whole peso model and make sure that when it is time to go to the writers, we can say, hey, here's the thesis, and I'm proving it to you by forwarding you their newsletter that's really unique and also echoes it. I'm going to link out to a TikTok or Instagram series that they have about it, and I'm going to like show you this kind of partnership element to it. So like, we're always thinking about how can the journalists see what we're telling them, like a lot of the show and tell. So we, from the very beginning, are thinking through with partners on every element of the marketing kind of flywheel, if you will.
And I'm hearing, as you describe that, leveraging PR for something that I feel like, and we're talking about earned media here, that earned can only do is that it integrates in all the other spokes of the wheel. If you create an advertising campaign, if you've got a social campaign, if you've got affiliate marketing going on, all that stuff gets packed into the earned media bag.
Yeah.
Because it's usable as content to the reporters, right?
Exactly. And it proves out the pitch, right? So sometimes an advertising campaign is a headline, right? Like if it's provocative enough, then it can actually get coverage on its own. But other times, it can just actually echo what you're saying in the pitch, right? So no matter what, every single element matters. And absolutely, like the best placements are kind of like checking off all those boxes and highlighting it.
Now, as we're taping this, we're in May, right? And we're staring down sort of summertime coming. Where is your agency's brain right now in terms of, you talked about a calendar before, right? You're sort of thinking cyclically or seasonally. Where is your agency focused on? What's coming up? And what are you working on for clients? Are you looking at summer? Are you looking at, holiday time 2023 already? Where are you?
Yeah, it's funny. I would say like we're 20% in the summer and we're 80% in Q4. So I think like we like to get ahead of Q4 as much as we can, just because we know that gift guides are such a big part of our clients' portfolio. We also, in terms of thought leadership, we work a lot with Asian American founders. So APAM May that we're in right now is a big month for us. We have some really amazing Hispanic leaders. So September is a big month for them in terms of Hispanic heritage. So we think about these things seasonally. We did have a kind of like summertime brainstorm a few weeks ago about, ice cream and cooling off and, those like seasonal fun summertime pitches. And we actually have, a lookbook that we send to editors where they can see, here's our spring summer lookbook and all of these, keywords and themes that might plug into stories that you guys are working on. But yeah, a big part of May is actually starting to plan for the fall.
And you're working with clients that are kind of thinking on those schedules as well, right? But
we like them to
how
think
do you
more on those schedules.
Well, okay, so there you're proving my point, right? So how do you get a client that is not thinking that far out, or maybe they're a little more reactionary, might be a different business than the clients that you work with, but you come up against that? How do you get them to think a little more long term, because it's going to be for their benefit?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that goes back to the education piece, right? So we have in that timeline, we have like real reasons why we need to be thinking about this, 6 months ahead. We talk a lot about the Q4 freeze, where publishers don't want to bring on new affiliate partners after a certain date. And so there are real concrete reasons to plan ahead, and they trust us. I think they say, okay, like let's figure this out then. Let's at least put together like a one sentence teaser, right? With like a launch month that we can go out with. And a lot of it too is like not reinventing the wheel. Like if something really great worked in Q4 of last year, like how can we iterate on that and just like change it just a bit to make it newsworthy, but not completely, reinvent the wheel. I think there's a lot of pressure on founders and startups to kind of always have newness. And I think it's more about adding a layer to the foundation than it is about kind of like starting fresh.
Super smart. So if somebody is finding themselves here in, May or June, where should they want to get something out for, let's say, holiday time, right? The November, December time. What should they be doing right now? How can they kick themselves into gear to make sure that they hit those deadlines and mile marks?
Yeah, I mean, for our clients, it's so much about price point. So, if we have a home and design client where their average AOV is something like $1,000, and it's a little high price point potentially for a gift guide, then how can we think on a condensed version of the offering that is something around like $200, $100, so we can actually like get into that cycle a little bit more. So price point is one way that we think about it. For the F&B clients, where it's more of like a consumable and it's not easy to gift, like how can we think about a shelf stable version of it? So if you have like a mochi company, for example, like does it have enough of a cult following to make like a mochi ornament, right? Like to kind of like have that be the fun direct to consumer component. So we always want to like stand on the shoulders of the core product and make sure we're creating a halo over the core product. And so I think it's just about taking what you're really good at and just being strategic on like drilling it down and plugging it into what editors are looking for.
Love that. Love those ideas. Christina, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for lending your expertise here.
No,
We are going to segue now into the rapid fire question portion of our podcast. This is where we steal a page from inside the actor's studio, ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, maybe a laugh or two. With your indulgence, Christina, here we go.
all right.
Rapid fire question number 1. What is your favorite news source?
It's has to be The Cut. I always feel very, very slightly triggered and also very seen by a lot of their headlines. I like the Vox empire overall, but The Cut in particular, I think is really spot on.
Well, definitely one that's important for your industry too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And your clients. Rapid fire question number 2. What is your favorite social media platform?
Can I say WhatsApp? I have to say there's
Sure.
a lot.
Tell us how you use it. How do you use WhatsApp?
Yeah, I probably use Instagram the most, but I do not like it. That would not be an accurate statement. WhatsApp, on the other hand, I feel like, I have a little community of mom entrepreneurs. I have a community of CPG founders. I have a community of my kids' kindergarten parents. And I do feel like those networks are really strong. Like sometimes I do focus groups with those networks. So I'm going to say WhatsApp.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Rapid fire question number 3. Coffee or alcohol?
Coffee for sure, alongside a croissant almost every day.
Good stuff. Rapid fire question number 4. What's your favorite on the run food? Now you're a mom, so you're on the run.
On the run food, I mean, coffee and a croissant. We're going to just do a double here. I also like feeling
answer 3.
Oh man, it's really true. Maybe I'll say like a ham and cheese croissant, right? So it's more of a complete meal.
Exactly. We're parents. We're practical, right? We just get it where we can get it.
Exactly.
All right. And rapid fire question number 5. What do you want to be after you finish this career?
Such a good question. I think about this often. I envision some kind of natural, kind of like 50% consulting on this type of work and 50% interior design, which I'm very passionate about.
Nice. Any particular aspects of interior design that you particularly like?
I don't know. I've loved putting together my first home with my kids. So I think, residential would be fun.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Cristina, this has been a great conversation. Please let people know how they can find you and Isetta online.
Yeah, we are at isetta.co. Same on Instagram/isetta.co. And I am Teeny Crumbs on Instagram, mainly kid photos. But yeah, that's us.
Sounds good. We'll look you up. Thanks again, Cristina. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Appold. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.